What is going on, everyone? My name is No Pun Intended, and welcome to coverage of my Week 5 match for the UPA. If you guys enjoyed my Draft League content, please make sure to leave a like or a comment on the video. I would very much appreciate it. But before we get into this match, I do need to tell you guys I made my first free agent transaction of the season prior to this game. So for this transaction, I decided to drop type null for my team. I really felt as though I didn't need the setup that it provided or the slow momentum. I already have enough mons on my team that can do that sort of thing. And really, type null as a defensive option wasn't really working out. It just got pivoted around too much, and its offensive move pool was just way too small for me to hit things back. So in its place, I picked up Audino, a very nice cleric, a very nice dual screen setter. It can put up Trick Room for S-Cavalier, which I appreciate a lot. It gets knockoff to take away items. And if my opponent doesn't bring very much setup, Audino can act as a decent wall because it only has one weakness, and it can just continually Wish Protect. My team is generally divided into two types of mons, the incredibly frail offensive type, as well as the bulky mons without any access to recovery. So Audino will help both of those factions to perform their roles better. I do wish Audino got Stealth Rocks, so I wouldn't have to rely on Crocodile or Regirock to set them up for me, but I can't expect that much from a tier 5 mon, and Audino does enough where I think I'll bring it to more than a few games this season. Just not this one. Because in Week 5, we're taking on Brendan, coach of the Boston Braviaries. I've left his channel link in the description if you want to go check it out. His roster is probably the closest thing to a Smogon OU team that's in the UPA this season, but that's not to say it's a bad team. In fact, I actually like it a lot. His offensive threats like Diggersby, Garchomp, and Mega Gallade are very difficult to check with a limited roster. But the best way to deal with a balanced team is hyper offense, and I think my offense can generally hang with any team in this league. So let's get into the team builder and see what I'm talking about. Before we can discuss the offensive arm of the team, we need to talk about Regirock. Regirock is primarily here as my Talonflame switch-in. Now, Talonflame is one of the biggest threats to offense available because of its Gale Wings ability, its 126 base speed, and its high base power moves, but Regirock completely stifles it. I'm running the same first 3 moves on Regirock that I've run on its moveset every week that I've brought it. Rock Slide, Toxic, and Stealth Rock just seem like the most useful moves per match. It is a bit annoying that Regirock is my only Stealth Rocker, and thus I usually have to bring it just to get up rocks, but it does the role pretty well. And for the 4th move, I've chose Counter to deal big damage to Garchomp, Diggersby, and Mega Gallade. If either of them attempt to get off a super effective hit on me, I know Regirock can tank it and hit them back. Decidueye is next. It's physically defensive with a Colbur Berry to take knockoffs from Tentacruel or Diggersby or Mega Gallade. Shadow Ball and Energy Ball are the 2 attacking moves. Nasty Plot to help boost in case of a more defensive team than I expect, and Roost to get some recovery. Also, a bit of a fun fact, this is the only special attacker on my team this week. I'm going full-on physical spam with my offense, but Decidueye at least gives me the option to go special in case of something with max HP, max defense that I can't break. The primary win condition I have on my team this week is my Megaladios, who's running Dragon Claw, Earthquake, Dragon Dance, Roost as its 4 attacks. This is a attempted Dragon Dance sweeping set. 192 speed plus a Jolly Nature enables it to outspeed Garchomp. In general, I'm hoping to be able to hit things at least neutrally with the combined tandem of Dragon Claw and Earthquake. His Bronzong is probably the biggest check to this available, but I did bring Crocodile specifically to counter Bronzong. Crocodile is going to go with the Choice Band to smack things around with Knockoff and Earthquake, and to potentially get a Pursuit Trap on the Bronzong to weaken it and open the door for Megalodius to sweep in the end. Choice Band just gives me some nice damage rolls against his team, if I can work with it well. And 244 speed lets it outrun any non-Scarf variant of Diggersby. And the final 2 mons I have are Scarf Victini and Guts Flameorb Swallow. They're both designed to break down his physical tanks. For Victini, the Scarf lets me outpace Garchomp, lets me outpace Mega Gallade and Talonflame, and hit them with moves like V-Create and Bolt Strike. Although Garchomp does resist V-Create, I think that it will do enough damage anyway, and hopefully Swallow will be able to check it down as well. Swallow is also running Tailwind in case of a freak Scarf somewhere. So the team that Brendan brought is one that I didn't necessarily predict correctly going into my matchup. I didn't think the Rotom Heat or the Magneton would come, but I guess he brought them to better check Tapu Fini. I am happy to not see Diggersby because that means Decidueye has a lot less pressure put on it, so now it just needs to check Gallade and not Gallade and Diggersby at the same time. He didn't bring the Clefable or the Tentacruel, who I thought I could exploit with my offense thanks to their subpar stats for defensive Pokemon. He also didn't bring the Talonflame, which means my Regirock set isn't going to be putting in the same amount of work that I thought it could before. It still can have a decent matchup against certain things, but it was namely there for Talonflame, so it's not going to be as important to me as I thought it might have been. But I am happy to see that he brought Bronzong. It means that my Crocodile can very easily wear it down with Abandoned Knockoff or Abandoned Pursuit. And in fact, I'm actually going to lead with Crocodile because of that, predicting a Bronzong lead, because I thought he would want to set up rocks with a turn 1, and then that would help his other mons to chip away at my team. Turns out his lead isn't Bronzong, but it is the next best equivalent in Magneton, and what I feel like I can do now is just fire off a knockoff. I definitely will outspeed him unless he's Scarfed, and if he's Scarfed, I don't think he'll be able to deal as much damage to me as he could. And in going for knockoff, I bring the Magneton down to its sturdy, I remove its choice specs, and I'm able to tank its flash cannon much more easily, as it only does just a bit over half. And what I can do now is just click knockoff again, because he does not have a Dark Resist on his team, and I imagine that not a lot of things would want to lose their item. He is, however, going to choose to preserve the Magneton, swap into Tangrowth instead to take another knockoff, and I actually remove his Rocky Helmet, which is a trade I'm more than willing to make. Even though I lose 17% of my HP, most of my mons are physical attackers, and getting rid of this Rocky Helmet means that they don't have to worry about as much recoil as they would have before. But now I'm going to pull a switch into my Mega Latios, knowing it's my best option for either a powerful grass attack or a knockoff. Grass Dark coverage does a number on my team, because my most prominent grass resists are mons like Latios and Victini and Decidueye, who are all weak to dark, and my most prominent dark resists are Crocodile and Tapu Fini, who are weak to grass. But Mega Latios is probably the best compromise in between that. Because knockoff is the most common dark type move in Draft League, Latios doesn't take very much damage from it because it's a Mega, and because it has naturally good defenses. But he is going to click Sleep Powder, predicting me to not want to keep Crocodile in. However, I still do have turns available to me where I can attempt to wake up. I do want to get off my Mega Evolution though, so I am going to try to burn a turn of sleep, and he's going to swap into the Magneton, presumably as death fodder, but also if I can't wake up in time, he can get off a decent hit on me. But no, I do get a first turn wake, I take him out with the Dragon Claw, and I remove his first mon from the game. And now he's going to make a bit of an interesting switch in by going into the Mega Gallade, but I'm going to chalk that up to either a misclick or him just not thinking, because he's immediately going to swap back out into the Bronzong, which is definitely the more safe option against my Mega Latios. But because he did switch in the Bronzong, I'm going to predict him to go for rocks and just go for a hard swap into my Crocodile. Even if he goes for an attacking move, with Intimidate, and knowing that Bronzong's special attack isn't very high, I think I can tank a hit anyway. No matter what, I want to get damage off on this Bronzong, so I'm going to click Pursuit. Even if he stays in, I don't think he's going to do very much damage, and I can weaken his best defensive track to my Mega Latios. And he is going to attempt to pull the switch, and I do get off a nice 88% on the Bronzong, putting it in range of mons like Regirock and Mega Latios. But he is going to bring the Tangrowth here, and looking back on that, I really should have gone into Mega Latios, knowing that the Tangrowth really couldn't do very much to it besides put it to sleep. But I guess I felt like I didn't really need Crocodile at this point, even though it would have been nice to have an Intimidate cushion against some of his physical threats. I guess I determined that in case he tried to double, trying to read that double will be more worth it than making a switch into Latios and then being put into an awkward position. If he doubles into Chomp, and I don't know if he's Scarfed, I could potentially lose my win condition, so I didn't want to do that. And besides, letting Crook go gives me the opportunity to switch directly into Victini and just click V-Create. It's the first time I brought V-Create on Victini all season. I really want to get off some big damage. But he is going to bring in the Rotom Heat, which is a good choice. It does resist both Fire and Electric, which are Victini's most common coverage moves. However, I do score a critical hit and deal over half damage to him. Now the crit isn't going to end up mattering, as you're going to see later, but I don't want to stay in with Victini after V-Create because my defenses are lowered and my speed's lowered. But I do have a fairly good switch in my Mega Latios. It resists both of Rotom's stabs, and I don't think he's going to go for Will-O-Wisp because I'm in on a Victini, and he could potentially risk Victini getting a 2-hit KO from Rotom with another V-Create at this point. But he does make the correct read and Volt switches into the Garchomp. And at this point, I'm really worried that this Garchomp might be Choice Scarfed. Even though I did Speed Creep a Jolly Max Speed Chomp, if he is Scarfed, he will outrun everything I have on my team. And I kind of realize that, and it just worries me quite a bit. So knowing that he has to lock himself into a Dragon-type move if he wants to kill Latios, I'm going to pivot into my Regirock, knowing that it has very good physical defense. But he's instead going to make a double switch, and sends out the Tangrowth instead. Now, even though that, based on the type disadvantage and Tangrowth's big physical defense, Regirock shouldn't normally stay in, I really don't have a great swap I want to go into, because if he predicts my Mega Latios to come out again and doubles back into Chomp, I could be in another very bad position. So, the big thing is that I want to get up my rocks here, just to weaken the Rotom, to put Bronzong in range for anything to kill it, even the Regirock itself. And in case the Garchomp is Focus Sash, I can break that as well. And what Brennan's going to do here is play around the fact that he thinks that my Regirock has to switch out against Tangrowth. But because I want to set up the Stealth Rocks, and because I want to potentially get a Toxic off on Tangrowth to make it easier for my Victini and my Swallow to kill it later on, I don't think that the Garchomp is Scarfed anymore because he swapped out on my Mega Latios earlier. So I feel comfortable with letting Regirock go in order just to set up the rest of my team to win. And as I go for the Toxic on the Tangrowth, he's going to miss a Sleep Powder, which I'm actually kind of upset about, because if there's anything I'm okay with being Sleep Powdered here, it's Regirock. Mainly because it already got up the rocks, it already talked to the Tangrowth. There's nothing else it really needs to do besides, like, potentially be sacked as Death Fodder later on. So what I'm going to do here is type in the chat to Brendan that you can Sleep Powder me again. And based on the response I got from him, I assumed he was going to click Sleep Powder. So what I decided to do was stay in here on my Regirock and click Stealth Rocks just so we could pretend that that miss didn't happen. But instead, he tricks me and goes for the Giga Drain, and I lose 40% health on my Regirock for no reason. Like, wow, dude, really?
It's so disrespectful for you to say something like that!
If I end up not winning this game for whatever reason, I can pinpoint it back to this Giga Drain play, where I trusted my opponent, and he instead chose to blindside me. But for now, I can't worry about that sort of thing. What I am going to do is just keep Regirock in, hoping he may potentially Sleep Powder me this turn. I can just go for Rock Slide, and the Toxic damage will eventually wear him down to a point where any of my offensive Mons can revenge. Eventually, though, he is going to decide to preserve the health on his Tangrowth, and instead sack the Bronzong. And now, watch closely, kids. This may be the only time in your life you see a mono-attacking Regirock kill a Bronzong. But now he's going to switch into the Mega Gallade. And if this thing is a substitute set, this could be a big problem, because my Regirock has no real way to break the sub. It can't even counter to do enough damage to it, because Gallade will just go for close combat and knock it out anyway. Thankfully, he does not have sub. Instead, he goes for Swords Dance, as I get the Toxic off on the Gallade, and that means that it puts it in a range where I can come in with Swallow after Regirock dies and just revenge kill it. Even then, I didn't think he would bring sub, because if my Swallow has Boom Burst, it will damage Mega Gallade from behind the sub. But now that Swallow can come in for free, something on his team is going to die. And he's going to choose to sack the Rotom, which definitely is the most expendable Mon he still has on his team. Mega Latios is still at a very comfortable range of health, but it does give him another free switch into the Garchomp. And if he's Scarfed, I will learn it right here. I'm gonna click Tailwind here. I actually don't know why I did this. I should have just gone for the Facade instead. In the event that Garchomp outspeeds Swallow, my move choice isn't going to matter anyway, so Tailwind will do nothing. But if Swallow outspeeds Garchomp, I get off a big hit on it. And right now, Garchomp is at a range of health where Mega Latios' Dragon Claw doesn't actually kill it. But with the Facade, I would have been able to get the damage off. Definitely a misplay on my part, but because I went for Tailwind, I also inadvertently make him believe that my Mega Latios is bulky, because there's no other reason to go for Tailwind if I chose to Speed Creep the Garchomp. So he is going to swap back out into the Tangrowth. And because he does that, as I go for the Dragon Claw, I can now attempt to set up a Dragon Dance, which means that I will OHKO the Garchomp, and the only way he has to beat me is with Sleep Powder shenanigans. Basically, he has to hope he can get a hit off on my Mega Latios with his Garchomp before I wake up. But in the end, that point is going to become moot, because Karma comes back to bite him as he misses 2 more Sleep Powders. Now, those 2 Sleep Powder misses only would have affected the outcome of the game if he had gotten like a 2 or 3 turn sleep. He would have had to spend a turn either switching out of Tangrowth or letting Tangrowth die to the Toxic to get Garchomp in. But those 2 misses ensure my victory, because Mega Latios can now just outspeed and OHKO the Garchomp and the Mega Gallade. So we win 3-0, and this is honestly the first victory of the season where I don't feel like I accidentally stumbled into it. My strategy to go fully offensive with Victini and Swallow paid off, as they were able to put a real dent in Brennan's team, and the Crocodile set really worked out better than I expected. Ignore the fact that it didn't get a kill, and that it died early on. Crocodile was able to nullify the threat of both Magneton and Bronzong, while also removing the Rocky Helmet from Tangrowth, which is pretty important when you have 5 physical attackers on your team. So yeah, Crocodile was incredibly clutch. and I was able to gather the momentum in this game very early on. But yeah, good game to Brendan. I'm just going to assume the Giga Drain play was a heat of the moment thing, and leave it at that. So to be serious, no hard feelings there. But that's going to do it for week 5. I want to thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I would very much appreciate a like or a comment, and I'll see you all next time. Take care.